people.
That's nice.
John Johnson has a cool post-career, big into FIFA, playing video games with fans, and he always be giving away money, man.
Yeah, he should have invited someone to interpret that playbook for him. Hey, man, what does this mean right now? Go up and run a dig route. When that guy runs a dig route, this guy's going to run a post. This guy's got the shallow cross, and then maybe I'll have more than 276 yards because I understand what they was doing.
276.
He said, man, this is in Mandarin. How do I do this?
All right, let's talk Giannis, Broussard. Last night, Antetokounmpo led the Bucks past the Pacers. He had some help from other players, though, but that's not important now. Before the game, Bucks head coach compared Giannis to NBA legend Tim Duncan, saying, quote, I think personality-wise and approach-wise, he is similar to Duncan, so humble, but wants to be great and wants the team to be great. High praise from Coach Bud, who spent 19 seasons in the Spurs organization. Chris, are you buying this comparison?
I'm totally buying it. I think it's right on the money. I mean, obviously their games are completely different, but the personality, you know, the lack of ego, but yet, you know, competitive drive. I mean, you see Giannis in the All-Star game competing for 4 quarters, you know what I mean? Tim Duncan was such a mellow personality. Everybody always used to think he doesn't have that killer instinct. No, he had the killer instinct. He was just a laid-back type of guy, and that's what I see with Giannis. There's no drama. Most of our teams, Golden State, you got Draymond, obviously LeBron, Kyrie. Most of our teams have a lot of drama, the top teams. Not so with Giannis. I think that tone's gonna be set throughout that organization. Similar to how I said Steph has done it in Golden State. He wants to stay in the small town. He's talked about, I'm not going to LA. I'm not leaving Milwaukee. Obviously, Duncan did the same thing in San Antonio. So yeah, I think it's right on the money.
Personality-wise, I get all of it. But career arc, career trajectory, and we're talking face of the league-wise, year 6 Giannis is year 6 LeBron. Year 6 LeBron, the team won 45 games the previous season. That year they won 66. He won his first league MVP. Last year, Milwaukee Bucks won 44 games. They're on pace to win 62. And Giannis might very well win his first league MVP. Year 6,
but remember, LeBron had gotten to the finals.
No, I understand. 2 years prior.
Right. So LeBron came through a lot early.
Absolutely. And LeBron by year 2 was worlds better than Giannis by. I get that part of it. Year 6, LeBron 28, 8-7. Year 6, Giannis 27, 13, and 6. And LeBron from, I would argue, a few seasons prior to his 6th year, but certainly by his 6th year, the universally accepted best player alive. And Giannis is working towards that. Maybe not universally accepted, but certainly some people arguing the best player alive. I know you have an MVP vote. I said earlier, I think this is going to be the closest MVP race since Nash's 2nd. Like, him versus Harden is going to come down to the wire. And I think Giannis getting his team to 60 wins, either winning or coming in 2nd in the MVP, that's how you become the face of the league. It is that level of high-level production and team success. And the other thing, see, about face of the league, who else is eligible? So, like, Harden's too polarizing almost. Like, too many people dislike the way Harden plays. Kevin Durant right now seems to me to be, he would need an image makeover almost. I think it's Giannis or the guy that you think it probably could be in Steph. Like, one of those 2 guys is going to be the next most forward-facing player in the league in my eyes.
I think Steph, because he has the credentials. I believe he's also going to have the additional ring this year. Also, him and Clay, I expect them over the next several years to put up ungodly type numbers. Man, dude's got 10 years in a row shooting over 40% from 3-point range. Like, he is the perfect, especially FKD. It's set up for him.
If KD leaves.
Yeah, if KD leaves and then he stays there, he's the face of that franchise because I like the comparison because that's what we have to do in sports. We have to try to take someone out of our past, give them someone who is currently so that the fans can be like, yes, I identify. But we can't take for granted what Tim Duncan had when he got to San Antonio. He had an injured David Robinson coming back. He had Greg Popovich, potentially one of the greatest coaches in the NBA. Stabilized as far as a franchise that, you know something, you know what we're getting ready to do? We're getting ready to start looking at international basketball players like no one's ever thought of and start developing them. We're going to put the perfect roster as far as defense, shooting, spacing. Also, you know what I'm going to do for you, Tim? Before people do that, I'm going to rest you.
Right. Before.
So he had so many things in Tim Duncan, and Tim Duncan, we know, was a better player when he came. He came out of college, man, as the big fundamental.
Yep.
He had 7 or 8 post moves then that we knew he was going to be a great player. So, yeah, I like the fact there are some similarities, small market and all that. But I think the fact that Tim Duncan, he did have the fire. But Tim Duncan never once in his career had the desire to be the best player, recognized as the best player in the NBA. And I believe that Giannis, he wants to be a great player. And Giannis has bought into he should be one of the best players, if not the face of the NBA. And I believe that that might be a pressure that might be too big for a young person because he doesn't even know what he's asking for. We know what LeBron went through. If we say Kobe and Shaq were part of it, we know what they went through. So these days have been easy for Giannis. The most difficult thing Giannis had, he couldn't get in the Mexican restaurant last year. But what happens when he faces some real difficulty, some real challenges?
And real expectation, because all he's done is exceed the given expectations any given year.
And you're talking about a guy who wants to stay in Milwaukee, a guy who enjoys the small-town aspect of what his career could be. Could you be the face of the league from a small town?
Yeah, you could. LeBron was in Cleveland. You could easily. OKC, if Russ was a little different, he could be it, or KD. I like your point about Popovich. Remember, Budenholzer came out of that system, was there for 19 years, so I'm sure he's going to take a ton of that stuff and apply it to Giannis. Here's my only problem. I don't know that Giannis could be the face of the league. He could be the best player. Tim Duncan was arguably the best player, but never was the face of the league. Number one, we've never had an international player be the face of the league. Number two, I don't like all the guys that have been the face, from Dr. J to Magic Johnson to Michael Jordan to Kobe and Shaq to LeBron. They've all had that swag about them, that cool factor that was beyond playing. Even if it was their game, the flash in their game, you know, with Magic, with the passes and all that stuff. If Giannis, I've said it before, if he grew up in America and had that American swag, he would he would be the guy that's going to be the face of the league. But he's more of a laid-back guy, like a Tim Duncan. I don't know if he's colorful enough to be the face of the NBA. And I agree with you. You stole my thunder. If it's not going to be LeBron and KD leaves Golden State, I would nominate Steph, because I think he'll go off and they're still going to be a contender.
So two things. One is, one of the other reasons Duncan was never the face of the league wasn't just his personality. It was his style. Duncan was shooting, backboard jump shots in the All-Star game. Duncan was the big fundamental to a fault when it came to branding, right? He didn't care about any endorsements. He didn't care about any of that. Giannis's style is exhilarating. His style of play is one of the most attractive in the entire league.
I don't think it's as attractive as the guys we've seen, because it's very, very unique. We've never seen anyone play like him. So for me, it's not always exhilarating, because wow, I never seen that. Man, that dude took one dribble from 30 feet. So there's a lot of figuring out. I think they're aesthetically, and more kids are drawn. You have to grow the game of basketball. I don't believe Giannis is going to grow the game of basketball by the way he plays. Steph grew the game of basketball. LeBron grew the game of basketball. Iverson grew the game. Jordan grew the game. Kobe grew the game. Shaq, man, when Shaq slid on the floor and was looking side to side, they changed how kids, the perception of the NBA. And I don't think that Giannis has a style, the style that I see, I don't think that that's a style like those other guys.
But the other point you made, and you made it in the morning meeting, was the international aspect. Like, we've never had a non-American born player be the face of the league.
Yeah, we want the NBA to be an international game, but I don't believe we want an international face to represent the NBA.
Well, so here's the aspect of that, though. We've only once ever, or twice ever, had an international player be good enough to be in the conversation. Akeem and Dirk, right? And Dirk did it in an odd time where, even when Dirk won his MVP, I don't think many people thought he was the best player in the league. Like, he would have the best season. And Akeem, I don't even know, was Barkley the face of the league when Jordan was retired? Was Jordan still the face of the league?
There really wasn't one.
There
was a lull.
Right. Shaq was trying to become the face of the league and probably would have, but then Jordan came back. So right now we're in a league where Giannis, Embiid, Luka's coming.
Embiid could If they,
because he's got the
start with,
personality.
he got the personality.
And so my point is,
and he played at Kansas. I mean, if that helps to some degree.
I think the international thing is going to fall by the wayside at some point because we just have so many more. Drazen Petrovic was never going to be the face of the league, right? You had guys that were excellent international players, but that was always the qualifier. They're excellent for an international player. We have now had Giannis and Embiid. We've got multiple international guys. We're going to have an international rookie of the year, might have an international MVP. You've got Joel Embiid, who had MVP buzz throughout the year, probably until this injury really was going to be in the top 5. I think it's coming.
It's possible that a few years from now, the 3 best players in the league could be all international. Embiid, Giannis, and Luka.
Right. And Denver
And if
fans,
I had to nominate 2 that might become the face just because of their personalities, and I would say probably Luka and Embiid.
Because Giannis
and Luka's
is
because he's white. I think that would work in his favor too, like it did for Bird.
And like it did for Steve Nash. And by the way, Denver fans will be mad at us back-to-back segments. We leave him out of Western Conference contenders. They're like, what about Jokic? What about but Jokic?
He's like Giannis, just the laid back, you know what I mean? In terms of becoming
Chris, we'll see you a bit later on in the show. Take a break. Much more first things first after this. Nobody even mentioned Danny Ainge. What year was he the face?
He's not.